Tonight, terror in Sydney. A gunman holding hostages at a cafe in Martin Place. Sprinting to safety, terrified hostages escape their captor. Ready for anything, heavily armed police surround the building. No giving in to terrorism. The reaction from the Premier, Prime Minister and around the world. And the dramatic moment, hostages call 9 News from inside the besieged cafe.
This is 9 News with Georgie Gardner.
Good evening. They weren't faces in a foreign city, but hostages right here in Sydney. Faces pressed up against the glass of a cafe in the middle of Martin Place and forced to hold an Islamic flag against the window. As many as 30 people were taken hostage by what appears to be a lone gunman. 5 have so far managed to escape. We have reporters right across Sydney and begin our coverage with Mark Burrows.
Martin Place 1 hour ago. Hostages running and screaming from the Lindt Cafe into the safe arms of police. They were 2 workers at the cafe, taken over by a gunman, still holding maybe another dozen staff and customers. 6 hours after being held at gunpoint. Three hostages pull off a remarkable escape from the Martin Place cafe and run down Phillip Street and into the arms of tactical police bristling with weapons. This was less than 2 hours ago. Their relief was clear.
We are with those people now. The first thing that we are doing is making sure that they are okay. We will then establish who they are and then we will continue to work with them.
The first terrifying images showing something was dreadfully wrong in Martin Place. They walked in as customers of the Lindt Cafe. Within moments, they were hostages, ordered by a gunman to place their hands on the front window.
I came down in the lift, and when I got into the foyer, the right-hand side's where the cafe is, and there were people sort of standing in the doorway. I then looked and saw a policeman on the at the edge of the foyer, and he sort of yelled at me to get out. I walked towards him and he grabbed me and ushered me pretty quickly around the corner.
Then an ominous clue to the motivation driving the gunman inside. 2 hostages with an Islamic flag above their heads, and on the window the words, "Merry Christmas." In minutes, scores of police were swarming around the cafe. Heavy weapons and body armour. Through the thick plate glass doors, a murky shot of the gunman, using a hostage as a human shield. He appears in his late 40s or early 50s and is wearing a black and white bandana. As one of the cafe workers reported for work, through locked doors, he saw the gunman inside.
There was one guy walking around with a hat and a beard, and he was just walking around just there, and I think I saw my manager there. And then I was talking to another guy. He told me it was armed robbery, and then that's when the police showed up, and then they cordoned off the whole area, and then that's when everyone inside put their arms against the window, like hands up, and then they put an ISIS sign up on the window.
It soon became very clear this wasn't an armed robbery. One hostage was videoed drawing her hand across her throat.
It's pretty bad. And I would rather be in there with them than be out here not knowing, you know?
It all began to unfold in the heart of the city, Martin Place in the CBD. At 9:30, a man is reported to have been seen entering the Lindt Cafe with a bag. Calls were made to police a short time later, around 9:45 a.m. The response was swift, and by 10 a.m, the whole area had been placed into lockdown. Mid-afternoon, the police commissioner made the grim assessment.
We've moved to a footing that would be consistent with a terrorism event.
4 hours into the siege, this was Martin Place, the upper end, completely deserted with only a few police cars cutting off the streets and manning roadblocks. But down here at Castlereagh Street, several hundred people watching the police operation, and everybody here probably sharing the same thought. How could this happen in the centre of Sydney? Up to 10 staff, maybe a dozen or so customers, held at gunpoint by one man. Blocks around the cafe were evacuated.
Keep moving.
At one stage, floors near the cafe were cleared. Office workers climbing down a ladder. The hours dragged with no breakthrough, and it seemed like the city was emptying.
We are being tested today in Sydney. The police are being tested, the public is being tested, but whatever the test, we will face it head on.
The sight of hostages sprinting down Phillip Street was a rare bright spot. On a day, Islamic terror paralysed the city.
Well, Mark Burrows joins us now in the studio. Mark, you spoke to two of the hostages this afternoon. What did they have to say?
Georgie, I spoke to two of them, and both of them were directed to call 9 News by the gunman. I could clearly hear him outlining his demands. I'm not going to go into the specifics because they are at the centre now of the police negotiations right now, and we're not going to do anything to jeopardise that process. I can say the first hostage I spoke to sounded remarkably calm as she detailed his demands. She also said she'd been given food and water. She asked me to relay a message to her husband. I called him and I commented to him how cool and calm and composed she was, and she said she was also always so cool in a crisis, and he was heading off to the police station to talk to police. The second woman I spoke to was in a different state. She was agitated that nothing seemed to be happening. She also relayed more of his demands, but he would not come to the phone directly through all this. Georgie, it was upsetting in the extreme to hear these two women talking this afternoon. Women who should be at home tonight with their families. Instead, through no fault of their own, they're now plunged into a very uncertain and dangerous situation.
Yeah, very disturbing indeed, Mark. Thank you for that. Our reporter Michael Usher joins us now from Martin Place. Michael, what is happening there right now?
Georgie, it is just a very, very strange feeling in the city tonight, and we have never seen the city like this at all. Behind our camera here, there are a few hundred people, as there have been all day for almost 9 hours now, all eyes trained in the direction of that building just over my shoulder there, seeing and hoping that more of those hostages will run out. It happens so briefly, but when it does, it is an incredible moment, particularly when those two young women scrambled to safety down the side of this building into Martin Place and into the safety of the arms of the waiting police officers. So a very eerie feeling right now. It is remarkably quiet and everybody is just watching on. Damien Ryan continues our coverage now. He looks at how a very busy start to the morning in the city turned to terror for those customers and staff inside that cafe.
We shield their faces, but it's impossible to hide their terror. The hostages on show, pinned up against the window, their hands reaching out in fear. TV presenter Mika Buchan watched it all unfold from across the road.
It's tragic. You're seeing people looking incredibly scared, being pressed up against the window.
Who are they inside? Well, most likely regular customers stopping in for their morning coffee, and as many as 10 Lindt staff. A mother of one of those trapped gave an insight into their family's anguish.
My heart just dropped, and I sent back a text message and said, "What's going on? Are you okay?" And he just sent me back a message and said, "I'm okay, Mum, can't talk," and left it at that, and I haven't heard anything since then.
It was a busy time of the day when the gunman with that black and white flag made his move.
It's devastating. It's quite emotional. We've got a lot of people who are not feeling great right now.
Literally, this is across the road from where you were.
Yeah, we were 50 metres across the road. It's like a scene from the movie.
Lindt management this afternoon issued a statement and summed up what we all must feel. We are deeply concerned over this serious incident, and our thoughts and prayers are with the staff and customers involved and all their friends and families. Lindt workers jumped on Facebook, alerting friends they are okay and thinking of those who weren't. Catherine Chi wrote, "For all who are watching, I'm safe at home but still shaking with fear as my friends are against the windows." Another employee, Amanda Oliverio, wrote, "Family and friends, just wanted to let you all know that I'm safe. Just fearing for my colleagues. I can't believe this is happening. So sad right now." And Petro Miguez said, "Praying for my friends everything will be fine. And as the afternoon played out, spirits were lifted, seeing the first of the hostages emerge from the building safe and well. It's more than likely police now know the identity of the gunman and are feverishly checking his background. For the first few hours of the drama, the hostage taker used his victims to do all his talking.
Nobody has been harmed or injured at the moment. We have been working through our negotiations to try to make sure that the people inside are cared for, that they have what they need.
The great fear for law enforcement agencies here has been such an attack, one mounted by a lone wolf with little planning, it seems.
It doesn't seem like a professionally planned attack. Some of the characteristics of those professional terrorist attacks are missing. The second thing we haven't seen is a lot of bloodshed or violence so far, so those are reassuring signs that this is not a professional terrorist operation.
Pro or not, the gunman, the hostage taker, the terrorist has certainly rattled a city and a nation. And as this tense situation drags on, we can only hope that's all he does, as police push very hard for a peaceful resolution. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
And as Damien showed us there, the impact on this city has been extraordinary and unprecedented. Lizzie Pearl joins us now. Lizzie, you're on King Street and parts of the city still shut down.
Michael, a strict perimeter is being enforced across the CBD tonight. Police have shut down some of the busiest streets. That lockdown zone is between George Street and Macquarie Street and Park Street, all the way down to the CBD, down to Circular Quay. I can tell you it's a very eerie feeling in the city tonight. Streets which are usually bustling, very busy with people rushing to get home. Those streets tonight are simply empty.
Opera House deserted. Polair scours from above, sweeping over the iconic white sails. As riot squad officers head for the famous front steps.
I could just get you moved back.
Tourists and staff were ordered out and the building was locked down. There were reports a suspicious package had been found half an hour after the Lindt Cafe siege began.
I just went for a walk in the sun and I was told that it's all been evacuated and locked up.
A couple of hours passed and the Sydney landmark was declared safe. The city breathed a small sigh of relief, but the emergency was far from over. All but the police helicopter ordered out of the sky as police shut down several CBD roads, including George, Macquarie and Hunter Streets, along with the Carl Expressway. Trains bypassed Martin Place station and police kept a close eye on the airport.
It's okay to leave, it is okay to go about your business, it is okay to go home as you normally would.
Office workers waited in Hyde Park, but even those a safe distance from the Lindt Cafe soon chose to go home to the arms of family and loved ones.
Chaotic, everyone's on their phone, they don't know what they're doing, they're contacting their relatives.
We've been advised to close and go home for our safety, and that's what we're doing.
A city accustomed to watching events like this unfold in far-off lands, now with fear firmly in its heart.
And people still are facing a battle to get home tonight. The streets which are open around the CBD are clogged with traffic. There is limited access to the Carl Expressway. Buses are delayed. They are still running. They are delayed though and are taking different routes to normal. Trains are still running. They're also delayed and trains are bypassing Martin Place station as they have been for much of the day. Michael.
OK, Lizzie, thank you very much there. Let's cross now to Simon Boda, who's been in the city since this siege began almost 9 hours ago. Simon, what are you learning about the police operation tonight?
Well, Michael, I can tell you it was a textbook operation from the very beginning. From the moment the first call went out that it was an armed robbery inside the Cafe Lindt to when it became clear it was a hostage situation. Now, police swarmed the area, from marksmen to traffic control people. They closed down the scene. And they all did this with just knowing the slimmest of details of what they were confronting. They didn't know how many hostages were inside the cafe. They didn't know how many gunmen there may well have been. But the counter-terrorism team that have charge of this operation at the moment are trained for this precise scenario. They train a number of different scenarios, and this is one of them. And they threw everything into the operation that they began here, as you say, 9 hours ago. Here's what the Deputy Commissioner told us earlier this afternoon.
Peaceful resolution will be what we are working towards. We have our police negotiators on site. They are some of the best in the world, and we are very fortunate that we have these police dealing with the matter at the moment.
Now, Michael, obviously what will happen from here is it will go on as long as it takes. The negotiators are prepared to wait this out, to continue the negotiations with the hostage taker for as long as it takes. Now, that could be hours, it could even be days, I'm told, but obviously they want a speedy and safe resolution to this crisis that we see before us.
Yeah, as we all do, Simon. They are skilled at what they do and experienced, so they're no doubt doing an excellent job. Simon Boda, thank you very much. Well, Georgie, we are still in Martin Place. The area behind me has been sealed off all day. There are still quite a few hundred people around watching, as we are all thinking, hoping and praying that we see more of those hostages released, able to scramble to safety out of that building over there, and we certainly hope that happens sooner much rather than later. Georgie.
We most certainly do, Michael. Thank you very much for the update. Well, understandably, the tremors of the hostage emergency shook Canberra. The Prime Minister and the opposition leader both expressing their sympathy for those being held inside the cafe and, of course, for their anxious families. Tony Abbott urged Australians to stay calm.
A Christmas tree was the backdrop, but the Prime Minister's tidings had nothing to do with comfort and joy.
I can think of almost nothing more distressing, more terrifying than to be caught up in such a situation, and our hearts go out to those people.
Tony Abbott didn't immediately brand the hostage taking a terrorist incident, but he went close.
We don't know whether this is politically motivated, although obviously there are some indications that it could be.
He called the situation very disturbing, but urged that people not succumb to fear.
I would urge all Australians today to go about their business as usual.
Opposition leader Bill Shorten backed up that steadying message.
Australians are shocked, but we won't be shaken. We face moments like this with resolute spirit.
Federal Cabinet was in session when news came through about the Sydney siege. Mr Abbott turned it into an impromptu meeting of the National Security Committee, with Foreign Minister Julie Bishop, Defence Minister David Johnson, Border Security Minister Scott Morrison and Federal Police Commissioner Andrew Colvin taking part by secure video link from Port Moresby. The government and security agencies had been ready for such an emergency since alarming intelligence information caused them to raise Australia's terrorist alert level to high back in September. Mr Abbott spoke to the New South Wales Premier Mike Baird and the State Police Commissioner Andrew Scipione, called the opposition leader to bring him up to date, then at noon held detailed talks with the chiefs of ASIO and ASIS and other officials before calling a media conference. Cancellation of the scheduled release by Treasurer Joe Hockey and Finance Minister Matthias Cormann of the mid-year economic and fiscal outlook was considered and rejected.
I want to assure people that the ordinary business of government must go on, and it will go on.
We cannot allow these events to shut down our country.
The Treasurer had a particular portfolio interest in what was happening in Martin Place.
Yes, the Reserve Bank is right next door to the Lindt Cafe, and yes, I've certainly been in contact with the Governor today about that.
After another National Security Committee meeting late this afternoon, the Prime Minister issued this reassurance.
Yes, it has been a difficult day. Yes, it is a day which has tested us, but so far, like Australians in all sorts of situations, we have risen to the challenge.
Political editor Laurie Oakes joins us now from Canberra. Laurie, what is the government doing tonight?
Well, Georgie, Mr Abbott was due to fly home to Sydney this evening, but he's cancelled that and he's remaining in Canberra so he can stay on top of this security situation. He'll keep in close contact with police, with security officials and key ministers until it's over. There's a specially built communications room in the Prime Minister's office for just this kind of situation. He can conduct secure video conferences with the people on the ground in Sydney and anyone else he needs to consult in a national security emergency, and with relevant ministers as well. He's open to spent a lot of time there today, Georgie, and I think he'll be in and out of that same room tonight as well.
All right, Laurie Oakes in Canberra, thank you very much. Stay with us for continuing coverage of the siege. We're expecting an update from police shortly and we'll bring you any developments as they happen.
And I'm in Lakemba with the latest reaction from Sydney's Muslim community.
Also in other news, the $10 billion budget blowout. What is the government axing to balance the books? And a surprise choice for Australia's new cricket captain. You're watching Nine's special coverage of the siege taking place in the city. This is a live shot of Martin Place. These pictures just in as we go to air. Australia's top Muslim cleric has condemned the siege, saying their community is devastated by the situation. Reporter Tom Steinfurt is in Lakemba tonight and joins us now. Tom, what is the reaction been like there?
Look, Georgie, the members of the Muslim community that I've spoken to are as shocked and appalled as anyone by what's happened today. And they're at pains to point out that 99.99% of the Islamic community wants nothing to do with this extremist element. However, sadly, there have been already some non-Muslims who've taken matters into their own hands, launching tirades against members of the Islamic faith right here in Sydney.
What race is Islam?
An ugly response to an awful situation.
Islam has no place in any country around the world.
With the hostage crisis unfolding nearby, already racist and xenophobic tensions bubbled on surrounding streets. And there are fears today's incident will result in further retaliation attacks against Muslims.
All of a sudden, because of the act of a few, the whole entire Muslim community and the religion of Islam is also taken hostage.
The use of the now synonymous black flag with Arabic script brought possible links to Islamic State into question. The flag itself actually translates to "There is no God but God, and Muhammad is the messenger of God."
If this person is Islamic, then in my opinion he's committed an act of blasphemy by including a flag like this.
Terrorism experts say the flag has been seized by extremists.
The flag itself actually has a lot of cultural and religious significance for Muslims, but it has been unfortunately co-opted and hijacked by extremist groups throughout the world.
In an attempt to cool tensions, Australia's Islamic chiefs united to denounce today's siege. A statement saying the Grand Mufti and the Australian National Imam Council condemn the criminal act unequivocally and reiterate that such actions are denounced in part and in whole in Islam. Many calls for peace, but the hostage situation will test harmony in the harbour city. Tom Steinfurt, 9 News.
We are standing by for an update from the police with the very latest on that siege situation, and we'll bring that to you as soon as it begins. Also tonight, the Treasurer reveals a $10 billion blowout in the budget. Also a teenager killed in a shark attack on the Great Barrier Reef. And Steve Smith picked to replace the injured Michael Clark as Australia's captain. This is the scene right now at Martin Place in the centre of Sydney's CBD. Heavily armed police still surrounding the Lindt Cafe, where an unknown number of hostages are being held by what we believe is a lone gunman. Let's go now to our reporter Chris O'Keefe, who joins us from outside St Vincent's Hospital. And Chris, we understand one of those hostages who managed to get away is being treated there. What can you tell us?
That's correct, Georgie. We can confirm that one of the people that escaped in the first group out of the Lindt Cafe in Martin Place is currently being treated here at St Vincent's Hospital. Now, all we know at the moment is that it is a male and he has no physical injuries. It is understood that he is very shaken up by this ordeal, as you can imagine, and is currently being treated for shock. Now, another thing that's interesting is St Vincent's is one of 4 hospitals that has been briefed by emergency services and police and are currently putting together contingency plans if things deteriorate. The other hospitals are Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, Prince of Wales and Royal North Shore. They all say they are ready to accept patients if need be, but at the moment they are continuing operating as usual. So just to repeat, Georgie, there is one of the 8 escapees from the Lindt Cafe in Martin Place currently being treated for shock here at St Vincent's Hospital.
Right, Chris, thank you very much for the latest on that. We are standing by for an update from the Deputy Police Commissioner, Catherine Byrne. That press conference is due to kick off shortly. In the meantime, we will continue showing you these live pictures from Martin Place. We understand still no sign of any more hostages since those 5 escaped earlier this afternoon. I'm joined on set now by our reporter Jane Azzopardi. Jane, you've spent much of today in the CBD. It's been the most extraordinary chain of events, hasn't it?
It was incredible being down there today, Georgie. Monday lunchtime in the week before Christmas, you would expect Martin Place would be packed with people who work there, tourists and shoppers. The MLC Centre at lunchtime was deserted. There was nobody there. All the cafes were closed. The only place where there was any movement was close to this Lindt Cafe. I was on Castlereagh Street for much of the day, about a block from where that cafe is. And as well as all the police presence, there was a large number of onlookers, tourists, people who had stopped their work in the city, and they were all just standing around, watching, waiting, probably incredulous that this could be happening in Sydney in the first place, but also just waiting for news, waiting to see something happen. There were people down there even taking selfies and photographs of the situation as it was unfolding. So just a very strange experience to be in the city altogether today.
And the whole advent of social media, we talked today about it being a double-edged sword. On one hand, it's been a very useful tool in disseminating information. Of course, on the other side of it, misinformation, plenty of misinformation peddled around this afternoon. One example of that being that there were other incidents going on around the city that in fact police later ruled out in terms of being connected.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of excitement, I suppose, if that's the correct word, initially when there was news of an arrest near Martin Place, and there was a lot of talk on social media about that, people wondering whether this was related to what was happening in the cafe. Police were later able to say that it wasn't. A lot of things, theories and things being flown around on social media. In terms of the flag that was held up, there was a lot of speculation about what that flag represented and what it might say, and it was some time before the police held a press conference and told us that they were even trying to work out exactly what it represented and what it said. So the other thing that was odd or out of place in Sydney today was just the lack of foot traffic on other streets, not just Martin Place itself. There were road closures. I was walking down Elizabeth Street at one point and they actually had sheriffs from the courthouse who were being seconded and under directions by the New South Wales Police telling pedestrians not to walk down that road. They'd closed down the Supreme Court buildings on King Street and the Sydney Law Courts up there. All the city courts were closed and the staff members that were usually working there were either led away or being used for this purpose to advise pedestrians. Then there were the other people in the office blocks surrounding. I saw some of them who were in lockdown for several hours then be pulled away by police, just terrified. The looks on their faces and comforting one another, just in shock that this could happen in their regular workplace in Sydney on a Monday morning.
Yeah, unprecedented scenes, there's no doubt about that. We're going to cross now to the very latest on this situation with the Deputy Police Commissioner, Catherine Byrne.
I'm here to give an update on the incident that we have operating in Martin Place, Sydney, at the moment. What we have is an incident that commenced around 9:44 today when we received information that there was a person who potentially was armed who was occupying a premises in Martin Place. Since that time, we have responded with police resources and other resources. We know that there are people who are being held in the building in Martin Place, and we are aware that there is a person who is armed also in the premises. What we are seeing now is this unvolving as a negotiation that the New South Wales Police is undertaking with the person who is in the premises. We have had 5 people emerge from the location, 3 a little bit earlier and 2 more recently. Those people are now being assessed to ensure that their health is okay, and then police will also speak to them. It's important to reiterate that we have now set up our Police Operations Centre, which is a standard response in terms of such an incident, and we have also set up our State Operations Centre. This means that we have access to all the New South Wales Police Force resources, and we also have access and partner agencies working with us for anything that we might need so that we can get the best resolution. Our approach is to resolve this peacefully. It might take a bit of time, but that is our approach. Our priority is the safety of the people inside that location, and then clearly the safety of the people in New South Wales. So far this evening, we have seen the public transport system perform okay. People have left the city, they've gone about their normal day, they've finished work, and apart from some minor delays, the system has worked well. We will be working into the night if this situation continues, and we will be looking at arrangements for tomorrow. But the message at the moment is that you should continue your business as usual. If you had plans to come into the city, then you should go about your plans as usual. There is a zone, an exclusion zone in Martin Place and the buildings that face onto Martin Place. But aside from that, other buildings will be operating as normal. If there is any further information that will change, we will communicate that through our messaging, through our Facebook, through our Twitter, through Sydney Alert, through all mechanisms that we can. What is important for people to remember also is that we have the Public Information Inquiry Centre set up, and anybody can ring that number at any time on 1800 227 228. That will be operating 24 hours and we'll be able to provide information about a whole range of issues. Can I also stress that the National Security Hotline is also a number that can be contacted if anybody has any information that they would like to provide. Can I so far thank the community of New South Wales. So far the community has been extremely patient and cooperative, and they understand that we are dealing with a sensitive situation here, that it is a sensitive negotiation. We are prevented from providing a great deal of information. Let it be assured though, please be assured that all police resources are in place. We are dealing with this. We have the best negotiators in the world, and we are working through this methodically to make sure that nobody is injured. Can I just reiterate and thank you for the community and their patience.
Can you clarify, did the gunmen agree to release those 5 hostages or did they escape?
I won't clarify any operational tactics at the moment. It is really important to remember that this is ongoing, that we still have people who are being held, we still have a person that we are dealing with. So as soon as we are able to provide that information, we certainly will. But the good news is that we do have 5 people who have come out of that building and that we are now dealing with.
Have you been able to maintain contact with the gunmen?
We've been in contact throughout the day in various forms, and it's an important part of our negotiation that we do not talk about some of the tactics or information that is being passed, but this is a very, very well-tested system of negotiation that we use. It is world-class, and it might take a little bit of time, but the safety of those people inside is what is paramount.
What does he want? What does he want?
There is speculation about what he might want, but we have to deal with with him on the level of police negotiation. We cannot be engaged in any speculation, but let it also be reassured that we are monitoring all forms of communication, whether that is Facebook or Twitter, for any information that might assist. And again, I put out that plea and that message. If anybody does have any information, please let us know. It's really important that you pass it on, because even a smallest snippet of information might be vital.
There are hostages inside who are posting on Facebook and social media some of the demands that the gunman's making. How are you responding to that? I know operationally that you need to keep some things under wrap, but it's out there for everybody to see.
Look, absolutely right. And we are monitoring what is happening on Facebook, clearly. We are monitoring what is happening on Twitter, and that is forming a part of our tactical response in how to handle this. Yes, that is out there, and we are aware of that.
But what's he told negotiators?
That's not something that I can talk about, what he might be telling negotiators, but the contact that we have will be ongoing, and it will be based on our best assessment about how to get those people out safely, which is what does count most.
Some of the hostages are talking about that there are...
Is he making the same demands to police, or is he simply trying to use the media to make those demands?
I think that there's probably a number of mediums that are being used at the moment, but we all have to be very careful not to completely overreact at this time, because it is still ongoing. But it is important to reiterate that we are aware of that, we are monitoring it, and we are using that as a part of our strategy.
Why can't you say how many are still inside?
It's not something that I can confirm at the moment, and it's not particularly useful to actually confirm potential numbers. For people who we might be dealing with, or who may have concerns that a friend or a relative or a loved one might be in that building, we have set up clearly our Public Information Inquiry Centre number.
But surely the people who've been released have been able to tell you how many are inside.
Yeah, again, that is a tactical, it's an operational imperative.
But why is that so sensitive?
Because at this point, everything has to be about the safety of the people in the location. So it's important that we don't confirm it at this point.
If you can't confirm that, can we talk a little? Would you be able to explain a little bit more about Task Force Pioneer, what it is, how many times it's been used before, and what other agencies are involved?
Yeah, a Pioneer is really just a term. It's a standing arrangement. It's just a term that relates to our command and control arrangements. So when we do have a major incident such as this, we set up our Police Operations Centre, so we have a commander in place, and we have a forward command, and we have other incident management protocols, so that we are ensuring that we have the best police response. So that includes investigators, that includes intelligence, that includes logistics, it includes all resources, and it also includes long-term planning. So that is basically a standing arrangement in terms of a response that we put in place.
All right, that there was the Deputy New South Wales Police Commissioner Catherine Byrne with the very latest on the police operation. She there confirming that police are negotiating with the gunman. She seems confident that no one inside hopefully has been injured. Mark Burrows joins us back here on set. Mark, this remains an extraordinarily delicate situation, doesn't it?
She said it all, Georgie. It's a sensitive negotiation. New South Wales Police, this is the way they work. They will take all the time that they want. They will not speed this up. She said it. It might take a bit of time. That means this could stretch easily into tomorrow. They won't rush this at all. She has confirmed that they are talking to this gunman. We have the best negotiators in the world. They're world class. She says they know what they're doing. They're dealing with the demands. These demands, bits and pieces have been leaking out on social media. I've spoken to two of the hostages have called me to tell me what his demands are. As we said before, we're not going to go into those demands. We're not going to jeopardise or interfere with the police negotiation. That's just not going to be helpful. But they are dealing with those demands directly. There's a list of them. There's more than 3 of them, and they're going to take a while to go through and to deal with. That they are difficult demands, and I certainly am not an expert in this, but the police negotiators will be trying to map a path to get this to a quick resolution.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Mark, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you very much for that. Of course, continuing rolling coverage of this siege situation. Also coming up in 9 News, the $10 billion budget blowout. What is the government axing to balance the books? Plus, a teenage boy has died after being mauled by a shark. And why Coles could be forced to pay $10 million in penalties.